Europe's oldest city. It's not Berlin, it's not Rome, it's not Athens, it's not any of the big traditional European cities that you might think of. But Europe's oldest city is located in Bulgaria. And it's a city that might really be overlooked, but it is littered with archaeological sites, temples, and buildings from thousands and thousands of years ago. It's been around for 4,000 years, and to this day, it remains one of the largest cities in Bulgaria. This is the city of Plovdiv. Well, good morning guys, and welcome to another video here from the beautiful country of Bulgaria. We have arrived to our first city here in Bulgaria. This is the city of Plovdiv, and it is quite a big city that straddles across a river. But like I mentioned, this is a city that has so many old archaeological sites. It's filled with so much history, and today we've got 24 hours to explore the beautiful city of Plovdiv to see what it has to offer. Plovdiv is also known as the city with 7 hills, so apparently we're gonna go see if there are actually 7 hills here in Plovdiv. I cannot say whether there are or there aren't. We're not even really in the center yet, but we've come to the first stop here in the center of Plovdiv. This is a beautiful little fountain. It's called the Singing Fountain. Now, why is it called the Singing Fountain? Because they've got sort of fountains that sort of sing to music. However, I don't really hear much music, so let's get closer to the fountain and see if they're actually dancing to the rhythm of music in the park. Well, I've gotten closer to the fountains, but there's no music, which is disappointing. I remember in Košice, if you saw my video in Košice in Slovakia, that's where they did have singing fountains, and the fountain would literally sing to music that would be in the background. Here there's no music, but the water fountains are sort of going off at certain times and certain rhythms. There's just no music to accompany it, which, you know, a little bit disappointing considering it's called the Singing Fountains. I would hope for some music, but it is a beautiful place. The color of the water is incredible. Like, I really want to jump in, but not a great idea to jump in. It's actually a great place to just come here and hang out before heading into the main old town of Plovdiv. Alright, in all of this area, we've got a bunch of beautiful green trees, fountains, and everything. And it's this beautiful park. It's known as Tsar Simeon's Garden, and the history behind it is really interesting. This place used to be the Turkish cemetery, and it was the Turkish cemetery until the 1890s when they decided they wanted to host a fair that would showcase Bulgarian's economy, Bulgaria's agricultural side, and sort of the inventions that were pushing Bulgaria forward. It was the first in the Balkans, and it was the first in Bulgaria. And at the time, remember in the 1800s, Plovdiv was the biggest city in Bulgaria. Not Sofia, not the current capital Sofia, but Plovdiv, the city we are in, was the biggest city in all of Bulgaria. This entire park used to be the Turkish cemetery, but it was cleared and replaced with the park that we have today, these gardens. And this is where the fair took place. There were inventions from America, from Europe, that was showcased here in this park. And to understand that, you know, this used to be a cemetery, but the reason it's a park is simply because the people wanted to showcase the technology that they had, which is really interesting. Now, the name of this city today is Plovdiv, Bulgaria, but that wasn't always the name of this city. When the ancient Greeks were around and when the ancient Romans were around, this place was not called Plovdiv. This city was called Philippopolis. Of course, polis is the Greek word for city, which is why this entire city was known as Philippopolis. And right behind me is our first archaeological ruin for the day. This is the Roman Forum, also known as the Agora of Philippopolis. It was built, you can see these massive columns, you know, thousands and thousands of years ago, but it stopped being in use by the 5th century AD. So a long time ago it was built, and a long time ago it also ceased to be used. That's the postal office here in Plovdiv. That level there, that is the normal pedestrian level. These ruins have been excavated so that you can see the pillars that used to serve as the Agora in Philippopolis. There's still a lot to be discovered about Philippopolis. They still don't have a comprehensive picture of everything in the city. That makes this one of the coolest cities to be in because it's a living archaeological site that's still being discovered every day. I've mentioned that the history of this city is incredible. It's been around just for hundreds and hundreds, thousands of years actually. And it's a city full of mosaics, full of artwork, and full of just incredible artifacts that are still being discovered to this very day. Our next stop here in Plovdiv is a museum. It is covered, but this used to be the Bishop's Palace of Philippopolis, which is the old name of Plovdiv. So let's go inside and see what it's actually like and what is the beautiful Mosaic Museum here in Plovdiv. That is actually one of the cooler exhibitions I've seen. This was one of the basilicas that was built hundreds and hundreds of years ago. And it marked a time, you know, when Christianity arrived in Plovdiv in the 1st century. And that church, the basilica, was sort of abandoned. It was sort of abandoned in the 5th century. And people just buried their dead there. It was sort of left as nothing. A road was even built over it. An entire neighborhood was over it. And the excavations only began like, what, 30-40 years ago to the state that they are today. The mosaics inside are impressive, and just to imagine that these were mosaics that were made hundreds and hundreds of years ago. What they were pointing out in the museum is that mosaics are actually something really, really unique to Plovdiv. They actually had a verb for the word making a mosaic because Plovdiv was so famous for their mosaics, and they weren't like Ottoman mosaics, they weren't like Western European mosaics. They had their own style here in Plovdiv that really set them apart. Now within the museum, a lot of the types of mosaics have to do with birds. The birds is a very important motif, whether it's a peacock, a rooster, all these types of birds had a very important symbol in Christian history, which made it really, really interesting to see them on the floor, and the different types of birds that they had. There were so many birds. They also have artifacts, coins, and all that. So it's a great museum just to understand the history of Philippopolis and understand what happened to a basilica which was abandoned for hundreds of years until only being recently rediscovered again for the public to see. I was just walking in, well, just south of the little old town area, and we've just stumbled into this little fruits and vegetables and flower market. It's a very small market, but it's very dark. There's not a lot of people. Let's go check it out. Let's see what a market is like here in Plovdiv. This is one of the calmest markets I've ever seen. No yelling, no screaming, no bargaining. It's just calm and peaceful, which is the exact opposite of what you'd expect from a market. But for some reason here in Plovdiv, that's the type of market that is behind me. It might have to do with the fact that we're on a weekday in the afternoon, and usually people do their shopping and buying in the morning. But regardless, it is very, very calm. It's eerily calm, almost, that it doesn't seem like a market. I will say the produce, fresh. The watermelons, the apricots, the fruits are incredible, and they're very, very affordable. So I mean, I'm almost really tempted to actually buy some fruits just because of how affordable it is, for the sake of buying it because it's so cheap. But really, what a great little market. There are still some locals buying stuff, so it's not completely quiet, it's not completely abandoned. It's just a very chill, very calm vibe. Like, you could almost meditate at this market, which is insane to me. Guys, forget what you know. Ghostbusters, they're here in Bulgaria. If you want to hire them, gotta come to Plovdiv. Now, Plovdiv is the oldest city in all of Europe, and it's the 6th oldest city in the world. And of course, when you're such an old city, when you're such an old Roman city, you've got to have your own amphitheater, you've got to have your own theater. And this right behind me is the beautiful theater of Philippopolis. Oh man, pretty steep steps down. Oh gosh. Well, as you can see right behind me, this is the Grand Theater, and this is the place that would serve as the sort of social gathering, artistic point of Philippopolis. To me, what's insane is how well preserved it is. You can see you've got the columns at the front of the theater that are still standing to this very day, hundreds and hundreds of years after this was actually built and even in use. It's still being used. You can see you've got like concert equipment down here. I'm pretty sure there's like orchestras that play down here, maybe rock concerts that happen. They're actually, I think they're selling tickets for shows, but it is incredible to me that they're still setting up for shows and concerts around here, even though this is a structure that, you know, been around for hundreds and hundreds of years. The fact that this can still be a thing, that this sort of structure can exist in Plovdiv, in Bulgaria of all places, is incredible. Now, I've mentioned a lot about the history of Plovdiv and how Christianity was really important. The basilica we visited earlier was because of the Christian influence. The mosaics, the bishop, they all emerged because of the importance of Christianity to the town of Philippopolis. And of course, we have yet to actually visit a church here in Bulgaria. So we've got to change that. We are currently at one of the oldest churches here in Plovdiv. This is the Assumption of the Holy Virgin Orthodox Church. Let's go check it out inside. So unlike the other churches that we've seen in other parts of Europe, this again is an Orthodox church, and you can tell on the inside based on the way it's built. It is Orthodox. The sort of plaque at the end of the church with all the paintings, the style is very Orthodox, the chandeliers, and the fact that when you go in it's really, really dark. It's not like bright and open and with full of light. That's not what it is. This church is definitely an Orthodox church, and it was a church that was originally built in the 1100s, and over time it's fallen into disrepair. The Christian influence here has been around for a long time, and you know, this church was built during the time of the 1100s. It's a really, really old time, especially when Christianity was returning and sort of making its mark here on Philippopolis. This church has been there all through it because that's the city of Plovdiv. This is the oldest city in Europe, and this church is a testament to how old that is. Now, Plovdiv might be the greatest at some things. It is the oldest city in Europe. It is the 6th oldest in the world. It's got all this history, but that doesn't mean that it has to lose in other areas as well. We are currently on a walking street here in the middle of Plovdiv, and this isn't just any old walking street. This is the longest walking street in all of Europe, and it extends right through the heart of Plovdiv. I think he has a hard time hearing me. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Plovdiv won the award for a European capital of culture, was voted a European capital of culture, and it might very well have to do with this walking street right here. It is a place that you just feel easy, it feels comfortable, and at the same time, it doesn't feel overly touristic. Since I've been here, I don't actually think I've seen a tourist walking on the street. What I have seen are locals buying clothes. Everything's really like shopping friendly. It's all about buying dresses and suits and clothes, any types of clothes, honestly. And yes, there are a few places where you can get ice cream. There's a few cafes and stuff like that, but it's not overly intensive like it is in other touristy cities in Eastern Europe. I guess there's a good reason why this place is the European capital of culture. It still feels like a beautiful, just nice place to come and just walk around in the middle of the day. Now, so far in our exploration here of Plovdiv, we've visited churches, we've visited basilicas, we've talked a lot about the Christian influence and the Christian history behind Plovdiv and the former old town of Philippopolis. However, after the Ottomans took over, the religious direction of Plovdiv took a very quick turn, and obviously mosques were built. Islam became very, very important under Muslim rule, and that's very, very clear right in the center of Plovdiv, right along this old street, the very, very long street here in the middle of Plovdiv is Jumaia Mosque, a mosque that was built under Ottoman rule in the 1400s. Let's go inside and see what is a mosque in Bulgaria like. For a second, when you go into that mosque, you forget whether you're in Bulgaria or you are in Turkey, because that is literally a mosque that is built in the Turkish style. The chandeliers, the architecture, I mean, it was literally built in the 1400s when the Ottomans came. So that is about as Turkish, as Istanbuli, as Ottoman as it gets. Now this complex actually was bigger. There used to be a Han, which is a sort of station that the Silk Road would pass through, but a lot of it deteriorated, and all that's left today is the actual mosque itself, which is beautiful on the inside. It's very, very quiet. I don't think there was anybody actually in there, so I had it all to myself, which is great, which is fantastic. But a great, beautiful mosque right in the center, and I think that's a trend I'm seeing, that when the Ottomans took over a place, they like to build a really big mosque right in the center. We saw it in Peks in Hungary, where there's just a giant mosque right in the center of the city, because that is how the Ottomans sort of established, look, we've taken over this place, we're gonna build a mosque here. But still, just absolutely beautiful on the inside. Everywhere you walk in Plovdiv, it's just ruin after ruin after ruin, and here is no exception. This is the ancient stadium of Philippopolis. And you might be saying, the stadium? Well, it's awfully weirdly not very protected. And that's true. I mean, literally, if you look around me, there are just buildings here. There's like store selling pans, literally pots and pans. There's a clothes store over there. There's the mosque that we visited, which is right behind me. And then below is the stadium. Now this was a stadium that was built many, many years ago, around the same time as the theater that we saw earlier, and it's just you know, where they used to, there's a stadium, you know, it's what the town of Philippopolis would use as their stadium, and it's underground, which is really, really interesting. Now if you do want to go in, you can go and watch a 3D show which takes you into the historical times, because the stadium, what we see here is just the very end bit of it. The entire stadium actually runs the length of that street that we saw earlier underground. So under that street that you walk on, it's this really, really long stadium that extends really far in. Of course, nowadays a lot of it's been built up. A lot of it is no longer as clearly delineated as it would be hundreds and hundreds of years ago. And what we see here is literally just a fraction of what the stadium was actually in its full former glory. Now usually I would not vlog an H&M in this video. I would never go and vlog about an H&M. There's nothing to see in an H&M, but here in Plovdiv, apparently H&Ms are home to ancient Roman ruins. There should be an exploration into the stadium below that runs through the street, and the entrance is at H&M. So let's see if we're right. But we're looking for ruins, 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 ruins. Lo and behold, there are actually ruins here. They are right behind me. This is incredible, in an H&M store. Let me show you. That is probably the most unique H&M I've ever been to. Now that side is just a little tiny section of the entire stadium where people used to sit. It's on the eastern side. So like I said, the stadium's over here, and it would extend all the way down like 400 meters, which would serve as a track for racing, wrestling, javelin throwing, all those old ancient Greek sports. Philippopolis was actually the capital of the Thracian region of the Roman Empire. So a lot of the best competitors, a lot of the best sportsmen would come here and compete, which is why it was such a big stadium. Even on the inside of H&M, you can see there are pipes where they would have sort of irrigation and aqueducts that would bring water from the mountains in Bulgaria. So it is incredible how well constructed and how well planned the stadium was, and how important it was not only to Plovdiv or Philippopolis at the time, but also a bunch of other regions all across Thrace that were under Roman rule hundreds and hundreds of years ago. Now we've been looking at the ruins of Plovdiv and sort of exploring the old Philippopolis, but here behind me, this is the center of the old town here in Plovdiv, and it is beautiful. I've noticed that the architecture here is not very Western European. It's actually more Turkish than anything. If you've watched my videos on Safranbolu, if you've watched my videos in Turkey, this type of building where you've got like the wooden sort of structure and the windows and everything, it's very, very Turkish. It almost looks like I'm in a town in northern Turkey. And that's because, like I said, Plovdiv was taken over by the Ottomans. It was taken over by the Turks. We're got one more stop for sunset and we're gonna hike all the way up to it. So let's go ahead and make our way there. After a quick hike, we have made it to the top here. This is a place known as Nebet Tepe, and there's archaeological evidence here that goes all the way back to, you know, thousands of years ago, to what, 500 BC I think is what it was. But here you can see the hills. You can see there's like 1, 2, 3, 4 hills. This is a 5th hill, and then there's more hills back there. But from here you can truly see the beauty of Plovdiv. There is a rain cloud that's coming in and it doesn't look very good for us. So let's go ahead and try to get the drone up, and I'll show you this place because it is truly magnificent. It is beautiful, and I've got to show you the beauty here in Plovdiv. Well, the sun is setting right behind me, but the only problem is that these storm clouds, dark clouds, keep coming in. And I think you can see from the drone shot, it looks like it's like raining and far away over there, and once the clouds come over here, it's gonna be gone. It's gonna be really, really bad. Oh, I think I just felt a raindrop. So in order to be smart, okay, I definitely felt a few more raindrops. In order to be smart, I'm gonna end the video here in the beautiful city of Plovdiv. I have to say, Plovdiv is one of my favorite cities that I've been to here in Eastern Europe. And the reason I love it so much is because it's so historical, it's so old. It is shocking to me how much history there is in this place. I mean, it is the oldest city in all of Europe, and wherever you walk, wherever you go, you're gonna see ruins. You're gonna see some semblance of Philippopolis. I mean, even up here in Nebet Tepe, this is a fortress that was built by the Ottomans. But even before the Ottomans, this was a place of settlement by the Thracians for hundreds and thousands of years, which makes Plovdiv, honestly, to me, one of the most historical, one of the most incredible places to visit when you are here in Europe. I've absolutely loved my experience here. It's just been great. The old town is beautiful, the ruins are great, the history of this place is incredible, and there's just so much to learn about this place, honestly, about Christianity, about Islam, about the different religions and how they contrast with each other. So definitely a must-see in my opinion when it comes to Bulgaria. Highly recommended for me, highly recommend this city specifically. Come to Plovdiv, come see for yourself how beautiful this place is. Anyways, that's all I have for you guys for this video. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you did, definitely give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more food and travel videos. We've got more videos coming our way here in Bulgaria, and the rain is starting to really get strong. You can see it right on my camera lens. So I'm gonna end the video here, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye guys.